It was supposed to be a routine visit. Maxwell Reed, a 42-year-old tech billionaire known for his discreet donations to children's public health networks, visited hospitals from time to time, guided by assistants and discreet security personnel. He didn't seek recognition or photo opportunities. He simply walked the corridors to see how his resources were being used. He preferred to do this alone without prior notice. He wanted to see reality, not something staged for his benefit. His charitable foundation had donated millions to various causes over the years, but children's healthcare had always been his priority, a fact few people understood the deeply personal reasons behind. Maxwell hadn't always been wealthy. His journey from a modest background in Portland, Oregon, to becoming one of Silicon Valley's most successful entrepreneurs was filled with both triumphs and tragedies, though the latter he kept closely guarded from public knowledge. On this particular morning, he visited a hospital in a struggling neighborhood of Chicago. The place was cramped with faded paint and a constant smell of alcohol and disinfectant. The children's ward corridor was quieter than usual. As he passed through the double wooden doors, he crossed paths with a nurse carrying a chart and a worried expression. "It's the girl from under the overpass, the one they brought in last night," she told her colleague, not realizing Maxwell could hear. "She's dehydrated, with wounds on her feet. She was unconscious when they found her." He overheard this by chance. On impulse, he asked to see her. The security detail exchanged glances, but they knew better than to question Mr. Reed when that particular expression crossed his face. The nurse hesitated, explaining that the case was complicated, a Jane Doe, likely a runaway or abandoned child. "I'd just like to see if there's anything my foundation can do," Maxwell explained, his voice soft but insistent. The girl was in a makeshift room, with thin sheets and an IV in her arm. She was sleeping deeply, her frail body covered up to her chest. Her hair was tangled and there were marks on her arms. She looked no more than 8 years old. Maxwell approached slowly, looking closely. There was something about her expression, a contour of her face, the shape of her mouth, something that stirred his memory, but he couldn't quite place what it was. The nurse provided what little information they had. She was found by a homeless man who called 911. No identification, no one claiming her. Social services will be here tomorrow. Maxwell nodded absently, his eyes never leaving the child's face. Then, as he turned to leave, his eyes fell on what was at the edge of the sheet, the side of the girl's rib, uncovered by the movement of her arm. There, marked on the skin like an old scar, was a small drawing, a crooked half moon, slightly askew, engraved by an accidental burn. He froze. He fell to his knees on the cold floor. The half moon, the same design he had made at 14 years old with a piece of hot iron to identify the cloth doll he had given to his newborn daughter, who had disappeared with her mother before even turning 2. A silent tragedy, a poorly told story, a disappearance that lawyers at the time treated as unsolvable. A mother who was never located. A child given up as lost. But there she was. The scar made by accident when the girl, still a baby, played with the doll burned with the same symbol. The memory came like a blow. He remembered the doll, the night he gave it, the fear that his daughter would grow up without reference. And now here she was. He cried silently. He didn't ask for tests. He didn't call cameras. He just sat beside the stretcher and held the girl's hand. She didn't wake up but squeezed slightly, as if she knew. The nurse watched in confusion as one of America's wealthiest men wept at the bedside of an unknown child. "Mr. Reed?" she ventured after several minutes. "Is everything all right?" Maxwell couldn't speak. His world had simultaneously shattered and reformed in the space of seconds. "I need to make some calls," he finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper. "This child, I believe she's my daughter." The nurse's eyes widened. "Sir, I know how it sounds," he interrupted, finally rising to his feet. "But I can prove it. That mark on her side, it's identical to one I know, and her face, I should have recognized it immediately." For 6 years he had searched. Private investigators, missing persons reports, DNA databases, all leading nowhere. After the 3rd year, his advisors had gently suggested he accept the loss and move forward with his life. Externally, he had done so, building his empire and his reputation as a philanthropist. But privately, the search had never ceased. "I need to speak with the hospital director and the attending physician immediately." Maxwell instructed his chief of security, who had been silently watching the scene unfold. "And contact Elaine Winters. She's still our legal counsel, correct? Have her meet us here as soon as possible. Also, I'll need the best private room you can arrange," he told the nurse. "Whatever this child needs, specialists, equipment, anything, my foundation will cover it." In the following days, discreetly, he carried out the legal tests, the genetic confirmation, the medical authorizations. The results came back exactly as he had known they would: 99,999,98% paternal match. She was indeed Sophia Reed, his daughter, missing for nearly 6 years. The child who had been declared legally dead after 3 years without a trace. Questions swirled through his mind as he maintained his vigil by her bedside. Where had she been all these years? What had happened to Catherine, his ex-wife? How had their daughter ended up alone under a Chicago overpass, thousands of miles from their San Francisco home? Most importantly, what kind of life had she lived? What memories might she carry? Would she remember him at all? She had been barely 2 when she vanished. The doctors had been clear. The child was suffering from malnutrition and exposure, but there were no signs of severe abuse. She appeared to have been homeless for some time, though certainly not for all the missing years. When she finally began to stir on the 3rd day, Maxwell was there, having barely left her side. Her eyes, Catherine's eyes, fluttered open, revealing a startled confusion as she took in the unfamiliar surroundings. "Hello," Maxwell said gently, careful not to frighten her. "You're in the hospital, you're safe now." The girl's eyes darted around the room, landing finally on his face. There was no recognition there, just wariness and uncertainty. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated, then in a voice scratchy from disuse, "Lily." "Not Sophia." "Of course not. She would have been given a new name." "Lily," he repeated, his heart breaking and mending simultaneously. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Maxwell." She didn't ask who he was or why he was there. Instead, she asked, "Am I in trouble?" The question nearly undid him. "No, Lily, you're not in trouble at all. You were sick, and someone found you and brought you here to get better. That's all." She seemed to accept this, her small body relaxing slightly against the pillows. "I'm hungry," she said simply. Maxwell smiled through his tears. "Then let's get you something to eat." As a nurse brought in a tray of hospital food, Maxwell knew that his life had irrevocably changed once again. He had found his daughter, but the journey was just beginning. When she received medical clearance, still unaware of the whole truth, the girl was taken to a new home with a bedroom, books, and warm food. She was treated with respect, not excess. The billionaire did not immediately present himself as her father. He preferred to build trust first, gradually, with conversations, short walks, and stories invented at her bedside, without rushing. The moon-shaped scar connected them across time and loss, but the bond between them would need to be rebuilt, one careful moment at a time. The transition was delicate. Maxwell transformed the east wing of his Chicago penthouse into a space designed specifically for Lily, consulting with child psychologists to create an environment that would feel safe rather than overwhelming. The room was comfortable, but not extravagant. Pale blue walls, a bookshelf filled with age-appropriate titles, and a window seat overlooking Lake Michigan. Outside her room, however, a team of professionals had assembled: therapists, security specialists, private investigators, and Elaine Winters, Maxwell's longtime legal counsel, and one of the few people who knew the full story of his lost family. "The DNA results are conclusive," Elaine confirmed, reviewing the documentation in Maxwell's home office. "But legally, this is unprecedented territory." She was declared legally absent 3 years after the disappearance. Reinstating her identity, your parental rights, it's complicated, but doable. Maxwell nodded absently, his attention divided. Through the security feed on his tablet, he could see Lily exploring her new room, touching the books with cautious fingers. "She calls herself Lily," he said quietly. "Not Sophia." Elaine's expression softened. "She was barely 2 when she disappeared, Maxwell. She wouldn't remember her name, or you, for that matter." Those words stung, but he knew they were true. "What about Catherine?" he asked, referring to his ex-wife. "Any traces?" Elaine shook her head. "Nothing yet. The investigators are pursuing every lead, but after 6 years, she left the implication hanging." Catherine Collins had vanished with their daughter during what was supposed to be a weekend visit, part of their custody arrangement following a bitter divorce. Maxwell had been in Tokyo on business when he received the call that neither had returned to Catherine's apartment. At first, authorities suspected a parental kidnapping case, but as weeks stretched into months with no ransom demands, no sightings, the case had grown cold. Now, with Sophia, Lily, miraculously found, the questions multiplied. Where had she been all these years? Who had raised her? And why had she ended up alone on Chicago's streets, thousands of miles from where she disappeared in California? Social services is cooperating fully, Elaine continued. Given the circumstances and your resources, they've agreed to an expedited custody process. The court hearing is scheduled for next week. Maxwell glanced again at the tablet. Lily had curled up on the window seat, a book open on her lap. Though she wasn't reading, just staring out at the lake. "And what do I tell her in the meantime?" he asked. "The truth will be too much, too fast." Dr. Andrea Chen, the child psychologist Maxwell had engaged, interjected at this point. "For now, the story we've provided is simple. You're a kind man who helps children in difficult situations, and she'll be staying with you while we sort out what happens next. It's truthful without being overwhelming. Children who have experienced trauma need stability and consistency above all. The full truth can come gradually, as trust is established." The first few days followed this careful script. Maxwell worked remotely, clearing his normally packed schedule to be present for Lily. He learned that she was bright but guarded, with an ability to read that surpassed her apparent age. She ate ravenously at first, then became more selective, as if testing whether food would remain consistently available. She suffered from nightmares that sent her screaming into wakefulness, though she refused to discuss them afterward. And she watched everything, everyone, with those searching eyes that reminded Maxwell so painfully of Catherine. On the fourth morning, as they shared breakfast, Lily suddenly asked, "Are you rich?" The directness startled a laugh out of Maxwell. "What makes you ask that?" She gestured around at the spacious dining room, the view of the Chicago skyline. "This place is big, and you have people who work for you and new clothes for me." Maxwell considered his response carefully. "Yes, I have money." "Does that bother you?" Lily shrugged, pushing cereal around her bowl. "The lady I lived with before said rich people are bad, that they hurt people to get money." Maxwell felt a chill. "The lady you lived with, can you tell me about her?" Lily's expression closed immediately. "I don't want to talk about before." Dr. Chen had warned about this, the need to respect Lily's boundaries while gradually encouraging her to share her experiences. "That's okay," Maxwell assured her. "You don't have to talk about anything you don't want to, but if you ever do want to talk, I'm here to listen." She nodded but said nothing more, returning to her cereal with deliberate focus. Later that day, while Lily was having her scheduled session with Dr. Chen, Maxwell met with Bernard Hawkins, the lead private investigator. "We've got something," Hawkins reported, spreading photographs across the desk. Security camera footage from a convenience store in Rockford, Illinois, dated 3 years ago. Maxwell leaned forward, scrutinizing the grainy images. There, captured in the background, a woman and a small child. The woman's hair was different, dyed dark and cut short, but the profile was unmistakable. "Catherine," he breathed, "and Sophia, Lily." Hawkins nodded. "We're backtracking from there, trying to establish a timeline and movement patterns. But it confirms they were together as recently as 3 years ago here in Illinois." Maxwell sank back in his chair, a storm of emotions flooding through him. Relief that his daughter hadn't been alone all these years. Confusion about why Catherine had taken her and disappeared. Anger at the years lost. And beneath it all, a nagging question. What had happened to separate them in the end? "Keep digging," he instructed Hawkins, "but discreetly. I don't want anything to disrupt Lily's stability right now." The investigation continued quietly in the background as Maxwell focused on building a relationship with his daughter. They developed small rituals. Breakfast together each morning, a walk along the lakefront in the afternoons when weather permitted, reading time before bed. He learned that she loved stories about animals, but showed little interest in princesses or fairy tales. She was methodical with her belongings, arranging her few possessions with careful precision. And though she rarely initiated physical contact, she no longer flinched when he gently ruffled her hair or offered a high five. Progress came in small moments. The first time she laughed, genuinely laughed, was during a particularly competitive game of Go Fish. The first time she sought him out rather than Dr. Chen after a nightmare. The day she asked if she could call him Max instead of Mr. Reed. Each moment felt like a victory, a small piece of trust earned. The court hearing arrived, and despite Maxwell's concerns, proceeded smoothly. Given the DNA evidence and his resources, temporary custody was granted pending a final determination. Social services would maintain oversight with regular home visits, but Lily would remain with him. It was after returning from the courthouse that Lily asked the question Maxwell had been both anticipating and dreading. What happens if someone comes looking for me? They were in the penthouse garden, a rooftop oasis of potted trees and comfortable seating where Lily had taken to spending time when the weather was good. Maxwell sat beside her on the bench. What do you mean? Like the people I was with before. What if they want me back? The question revealed both fear and a complex loyalty that tore at Maxwell's heart. Lily, he said gently, no one has reported you missing. The police checked. Whoever you were with before, they haven't come forward. Her small face registered confusion, then a flicker of hurt quickly suppressed. Oh, but, Maxwell continued carefully, if someone did come forward, they would need to explain many things, like why you were alone and sick when you were found. The judge would have to decide what's best for you. She nodded, processing this. Then, in a voice so quiet he almost missed it, I don't want to go back. Maxwell's chest tightened. May I ask why? Lily stared down at her hands. She left me. She said she'd come back, but she didn't. Her words opened a floodgate of questions, but Maxwell restrained himself, recognizing the fragility of the moment. I'm sorry that happened to you, he said simply. You're safe here. I promise. That night, as Maxwell checked on Lily before going to bed himself, he found her sitting up, the moonlight streaming through her window, casting silver patterns across her bed. Can't sleep? He asked softly. She shook her head. I keep thinking about my mom. The word sent a jolt through Maxwell. It was the first time she had explicitly mentioned her mother. Do you want to tell me about her? He ventured. Lily hesitated, then shrugged. She wasn't really my mom. She just said I should call her that. Her real name was Kay. Kay, Catherine. The connection was immediate and electric. What was she like? Maxwell asked, keeping his voice neutral despite his racing heart. Sometimes nice, Lily said. Sometimes she would cry a lot. She said we had to keep moving because bad people were looking for us. She paused, then added, she had a picture of a baby she said was me, and a man she said was my real dad, but I couldn't remember them. Maxwell struggled to maintain his composure. Did she ever say anything about your real dad? Lily nodded slowly. She said he was looking for me, but we couldn't let him find us because he was dangerous. The words hit like physical blows. Catherine had painted him as a threat, had spent years running, teaching their daughter to fear him. And did you believe her? He asked, his voice barely steady. Lily's response was unexpected. I didn't know, but I didn't think it was true. Because she kept the picture? If he was bad, why keep his picture? From the mouths of babes, Maxwell thought, a tear slipping down his cheek. That's very smart thinking, he managed. Lily yawned suddenly, the emotional conversation having drained her energy. Will you tell me a story? She asked, sliding back down under her covers. One about the moon? Maxwell smiled through his tears. So of course. As he began spinning a gentle tale about the moon watching over a little girl, keeping her safe through all her journeys, Lily's eyes drifted closed. Maxwell remained, watching his daughter sleep, while his mind churned with new information. Catherine had kept their photo. Despite everything, despite the lies she had told, she had kept that connection to their past. It was a small detail, but somehow significant. Tomorrow he would share this new information with the investigators. Tonight, he would simply be grateful for this moment, sitting beside his daughter in the moonlight, watching over her sleep. Summer gave way to fall, and with the changing seasons came gradual transformations in Lily's demeanor. The guarded wariness that had characterized her first weeks with Maxwell began to soften. She spoke more, laughed more easily, and occasionally initiated small gestures of affection, a tentative hand on his arm, an impulsive hug before bed. The nightmares hadn't disappeared completely, but their frequency had diminished. The investigation into Catherine's whereabouts continued with methodical precision. Bernard Hawkins had established a partial timeline. After disappearing from San Francisco, Catherine and Sophia had apparently spent time in Seattle, then Denver, before surfacing in that convenience store footage in Illinois. Always moving, never staying anywhere long enough to establish connections or leave substantial traces. The trail grew strongest in the small town of Millfield, about 2 hours west of Chicago, where they had apparently settled for nearly 2 years, the longest period in one location. Catherine had worked as a waitress at a local diner under the name Kay Wilson, and Lily had briefly attended the town's elementary school before they vanished again, approximately 8 months ago. "We've interviewed the school principal and Lily's former teacher," Hawkins reported during one of their weekly briefings. "They remember her as quiet but bright." Catherine, or Kay, kept to herself, rarely participated in school functions. They lived in a small apartment above a hardware store on Main Street. Maxwell studied the photographs of the modest apartment building. And no one questioned their background, their sudden appearance in town? Hawkins shrugged. Small towns can be both nosy and respectful of privacy. She told people she was a single mother starting over after leaving an abusive relationship. It's a common enough story that it didn't raise flags. People were sympathetic, gave her space. Maxwell winced at the characterization. The divorce had been contentious. Catherine had felt betrayed by his constant work travel, had accused him of prioritizing his growing company over their family, but there had never been abuse. That was a fabrication that stung deeply. And their departure? Less clear, Hawkins admitted. Kay gave notice at the diner, said they were moving to be closer to family. But according to the landlord, they left in a hurry. Rent paid through the end of the month, but they cleared out overnight. That was this past January. January, just months before Lily had been found alone in Chicago. The gap in the timeline haunted Maxwell. What had happened in those critical months to separate mother and daughter? And why had Catherine finally settled for those 2 years after constantly moving? Was she tired of running, or had she felt safe enough to pause? As the investigators pursued these questions, Maxwell focused on the present. The permanent custody hearing was approaching, and while the DNA evidence made the outcome nearly certain, he wanted Lily to feel secure and prepared for the legal proceedings. Dr. Chen had suggested that establishing a sense of permanence would help, enrolling Lily in school, developing routines, discussing future plans that included her input. "What do you think about going to school?" Maxwell asked one evening as they worked on a jigsaw puzzle together, an activity Lily had shown particular aptitude for. She considered the question seriously, fitting another piece into place before answering. "The one I went to before was okay, but the kids asked too many questions." "What kind of questions?" "About why we moved so much, why I didn't have a dad, why my mom worked all the time." Her matter-of-fact tone belied the weight of these childhood interrogations. "The school here would be different," Maxwell assured her. "It's small, with teachers who understand that every student has their own story. You wouldn't have to answer questions you don't want to." Lily nodded slowly. "Would I have to tell them where I came from?" "No," Maxwell said firmly. "Your history is yours to share or keep private as you choose. All anyone needs to know is that you're living with me now." This seemed to satisfy her, and she returned her attention to the puzzle. But minutes later, she spoke again, her voice hesitant. "Max, are you going to be my forever home?" The question caught him off guard, both in its directness and the vulnerability it revealed. "I want to be," he answered honestly. "The judge will make the final decision next week, but I'm doing everything I can to make sure you can stay with me for as long as you want to." She nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. Then, with the abrupt subject changes characteristic of children, "Can we get a dog?" Maxwell laughed, relief washing through him at the normality of the request. "We can certainly discuss it. What kind of dog would you like?" As Lily launched into a detailed description of her ideal canine companion, Maxwell marveled at the resilience of children, their ability to contemplate both profound questions of belonging and the simple joy of pet ownership in the same conversation. The next day brought an unexpected development. Hawkins arrived at the penthouse with a small cardboard box. "The landlord in Millfield found this in the storage unit attached to the apartment," he explained. "It had fallen behind some shelving. He just discovered it while preparing the space for new tenants." The box contained a small collection of items, A worn teddy bear missing one eye, a handful of birthday cards signed K, a child's drawings, and at the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, a cloth doll. Maxwell's hands trembled as he carefully unwrapped it. The doll was faded and well-loved, its yarn hair matted, its dress stained. But there, unmistakable on its side, was the small half-moon shape he had burned into the fabric all those years ago. "My God," he whispered. "It's the doll." Hawkins nodded gravely. "We thought you'd want to see it immediately. Should I arrange to have these items tested for DNA or fingerprints?" Maxwell shook his head. "No, not yet. I want to show the doll to Lily first. See if she recognizes it." When Lily returned from her therapy session that afternoon, Maxwell presented the box carefully, explaining that some of her things had been found in her previous home. She approached it with caution, sifting through the items with a strange mix of recognition and detachment. When she reached the doll, however, her reaction was immediate and visceral. "Luna!" she gasped, snatching it up and clutching it to her chest. The name, Spanish for moon, sent another shock through Maxwell. He had named the doll Luna when he'd given it to baby Sophia. Catherine must have kept the name all these years. "You remember her?" Maxwell asked gently. Lily nodded, her face buried in the doll's worn fabric. "She's mine. Mom said she was special, that she'd always protect me." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I thought I lost her forever." In that moment, Maxwell knew it was time. The connection was too strong, the evidence too clear. With the custody hearing just days away, and Lily clearly recognizing the doll that linked them, continuing to withhold the truth seemed more harmful than protective. After consulting with Dr. Chen, they agreed. Maxwell would tell Lily about their relationship that evening, in the comfortable environment of their home, with the therapist available for support if needed. The conversation would be gentle, factual, and focused on Lily's feelings and questions. As dinner concluded, Maxwell suggested they sit in the living room, where the Chicago skyline glittered beyond the windows. Lily brought Luna with her, the doll cradled in her arm. "Lily," Maxwell began carefully, "I have something important to tell you about Luna, and about me and about you." She regarded him with those serious eyes, somehow sensing the gravity of the moment. "Luna is very special," he continued. "I know that because I'm the one who gave her to you when you were a baby." Confusion crossed her face. "But my mom gave me Luna." "Your mom kept Luna for you," Maxwell clarified. "But I was the one who made her, who put that special moon mark on her side." He gently touched the half-moon shape on the doll. "I put that mark there so you would always know she came from me." Lily's brow furrowed as she processed this information. "Why would you give me Luna? Did you know my mom?" Maxwell took a deep breath. "Yes, I knew your mom. Her name was Catherine, and I knew you too, though you were very small. Your name was Sophia." He paused, allowing her to absorb this before continuing. "Lily, I'm your father." The silence that followed seemed to stretch endlessly. Lily stared at him, then down at Luna, then back at him. Her expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something unreadable. "But my mom said," she began, then stopped. "She said my dad was looking for us." "I was," Maxwell confirmed gently. "I never stopped looking for you. Not for a single day since you disappeared." Another long silence as Lily processed this revelation. "Is that why you took me from the hospital? Because you're my dad?" "Yes," Maxwell admitted. "When I saw that mark on your side, the same half-moon shape that's on Luna, I knew who you were. I had tests done to make absolutely sure, but in my heart, I knew immediately." Lily's hand went unconsciously to her side, where the small scar lay. "I got this from Luna," she said slowly. "When I was little, Mum said I was playing with her near the stove, and the mark transferred to me." Maxwell nodded. "That's right, it was an accident. I had marked Luna with a heated piece of metal, and when you were very small, you pressed her against yourself while she was near a heater. The mark transferred, leaving that scar." Lily stared at the doll with new understanding. "So you're really my dad?" It wasn't a question, but Maxwell answered anyway. "Yes, I am. And my real name is Sophia. Your legal name is Sophia Reed, but Lily is a beautiful name too. You can choose what you want to be called." She considered this carefully. "I think I'm used to being Lily." "Then Lily it is," Maxwell agreed readily. "Though legally we might make it Lily Sophia Reed if that's okay with you." She nodded slowly, then asked the question Maxwell had been dreading. Why did Mom take me away from you? How to explain the complexities of adult relationships, the bitterness of divorce, the custody battles and accusations to an 8-year-old? Maxwell chose his words with extreme care. Your mom and I were married, but we grew apart. We divorced when you were very small. We were supposed to share time with you. You would live with her sometimes, and with me other times. But during one of her times with you, she decided to leave and take you with her. I didn't know where you had gone, and I couldn't find you, though I tried very hard. Was she mad at you? Lily asked, her perception cutting straight to the emotional truth. Yes, Maxwell acknowledged. She was angry and hurt. We both made mistakes. But taking you away wasn't right, no matter how she felt about me. Lily absorbed this, her young mind grappling with the complexities of adult emotions and actions. Is Mom... She hesitated, struggling with the question. Is she gone forever? The question pierced Maxwell's heart. I don't know, he answered truthfully. We're still looking for her. Something happened that separated you two in Chicago. We're trying to understand what that was. Lily's face clouded and she clutched Luna tighter. She left me at Ms. Brenda's, said she had to do something important and would come back in 2 days. But she didn't come back. Who is Ms. Brenda? Maxwell asked gently, this being the first he'd heard of this person. She was Mom's friend in the city. She had lots of kids staying with her. Some were nice, some weren't. The implications of this arrangement, Catherine leaving Lily in what sounded like an informal group home or possibly an illegal childcare operation, troubled Maxwell deeply. And when your mum didn't come back, Ms. Brenda got mad, said she couldn't keep kids who nobody paid for. After a week, she said I had to go, gave me $10 and told me to find the police. Lily's matter-of-fact recounting of abandonment struck Maxwell with fresh horror. But I didn't want police to take me to a bad place, so I just stayed outside. I was okay for a while. Then I got sick. The understated description of her time on the streets, the getting sick that had actually been life-threatening dehydration and exposure, made Maxwell want to both hold her tight and find this Ms. Brenda immediately. Instead, he simply asked, do you remember where Ms. Brenda's place was? Lily shrugged. It was a big building with lots of apartments. Had a green door. Not much to go on, but it was a lead. Maxwell would pass it to Hawkins immediately. Thank you for telling me this, Lily. It helps us understand what happened. She nodded, then asked in a small voice, are you mad that I didn't remember you? Oh, Lily, Maxwell breathed, his heart breaking. No, not at all. You were so young when you left, and it's been so many years. I'm just grateful that we found each other again. He opened his arms tentatively, offering an embrace without demanding it. After a moment's hesitation, Lily moved into his arms, Luna still clutched tightly to her chest. I'm glad you're my dad, she whispered against his shoulder. Maxwell held his daughter, tears streaming freely down his face. I'm glad too, Lily. More than you can possibly know. As she pulled back, her expression had changed. A new openness, a tentative trust. Can I see a picture of when I was Sophia? Maxwell smiled through his tears. Of course. I have albums, photos of you as a baby, of the three of us together. Would you like to see them now? Lily nodded eagerly, and as Maxwell retrieved the carefully preserved photo albums from his study, he felt a shifting in their relationship, the beginning of a new chapter built on truth, however complicated that truth might be. The moon-shaped scars that connected them had finally revealed their purpose, to bring father and daughter back together across the gulf of years and deception. The custody hearing was a formality after the DNA confirmation and Lily's clear bond with Maxwell. The judge, a compassionate woman with decades of family court experience, spoke directly to Lily during a private chamber meeting, then ruled firmly in Maxwell's favor. Sophia Lily Reed was officially recognized as his daughter, legally restored from her presumed lost status. Life settled into new patterns after that. Lily started at Lakeside Academy, a progressive private school where the staff had been briefed on her unique situation and need for privacy. Maxwell adjusted his work schedule permanently, delegating more responsibility to his executive team so he could be home for school drop-offs and pickups. The search for Catherine continued, but with less urgency than before. Now that Lily was legally secure, finding her mother became more about completing the picture. understanding the past, and potentially offering Lily closure rather than a legal necessity. The lead on Ms. Brenda had proven productive. Bernard Hawkins identified her as Brenda Laskowitz, a woman with a history of running unlicensed childcare operations that skirted the edges of legality. Her most recent location had been a rundown apartment building in West Rogers Park, with a distinctive green door. When questioned by Hawkins, posing as a relative searching for a different child, Laskowitz confirmed that Kay Wilson had left her daughter there in early March, promising to return within days. "Paid for a week up front," Laskowitz reported gruffly. "Never came back. So I kept the kid an extra week because she was quiet, didn't cause trouble. But I'm running a business, not a charity." She claimed to have no idea where Catherine had gone or why she hadn't returned. The story aligned with Lily's account, but provided no new leads on Catherine's whereabouts or intentions. As summer approached again, nearly a year since Lily had been found, Maxwell proposed a change of scenery. "How would you feel about spending some time at our house in California?" he asked Lily one evening as they worked on homework together. "It's near the ocean with a big yard. You were born there in San Francisco." Lily considered this thoughtfully. She did everything thoughtfully now, a trait that reminded Maxwell painfully of Catherine, who, despite her impulsiveness in taking their child, had always been deliberate in her decisions. "Would we still come back to Chicago?" she asked finally. "Of course," Maxwell assured her. "This is your home now, but I thought it might be nice to show you where you spent your first 2 years. And maybe," he hesitated, unsure if the suggestion was premature, "maybe it might help you remember some things." Lily nodded slowly. "I'd like to see it. And the ocean." The trip was arranged for the beginning of summer break. The San Francisco house, a modernist structure overlooking the Pacific, had been maintained in perfect condition during Maxwell's years in Chicago, though he had rarely visited. Too many memories, too much pain associated with the happy family life that had been shattered there. As they pulled into the long driveway, Maxwell felt a strange doubling of time. Here was his daughter returning to her first home, but as a different child than the toddler who had left. Lily seemed to feel it too, standing in the grand entrance hall with an expression of curious concentration, as if listening for echoes from the past. "Anything feel familiar?" Maxwell asked gently. She shook her head. "Not really, but it feels, I don't know, important." Over the next few days, they explored the house and grounds together. Maxwell showed her the nursery, preserved exactly as it had been, with its ocean-themed murals and mobile of sea creatures hanging above the crib. "You used to laugh every time the whale spun around," he told her, setting the mobile in motion with a gentle touch. "Your mother would sing to you here, songs about the sea." In the garden, he pointed out the lemon tree where they had taken her first birthday photos, the swing set he had assembled himself during Catherine's pregnancy. Each location came with a story, a memory he had clung to during the years of searching. Lily absorbed it all with solemn attention, occasionally asking questions but offering little reaction. It wasn't until their third night in California that something shifted. Maxwell was awakened by Lily's voice, not screaming from a nightmare as had happened occasionally in Chicago, but calling for him with urgent insistence. He found her standing at her bedroom window, staring out at the moonlit garden. "I remembered something," she said without preamble. "A song. Mom used to sing it while pushing me on the swings." She hummed a few bars, a folk melody that Maxwell recognized immediately as one of Catherine's favorites. "That's right," he confirmed, amazed. "She used to sing that to you all the time." Lily's face lit with the validation. "I thought maybe I made it up. But I really remembered." It was the first concrete memory she had recovered from her earliest years, and it opened a floodgate. Over the following days, snippets of recollection emerged. The taste of the orange popsicles Catherine had given her on hot days, the feeling of sand between her toes at the beach below the house, the sound of foghorns in the distance as she fell asleep. None of these memories included Maxwell directly. She had been too young when Catherine took her, but they were genuine connections to her earliest life, pieces of herself recovered. On their 5th day in San Francisco, Maxwell received an unexpected call from Hawkins. "We've found something," the investigator said without preamble. "A storage unit in Oakland, rented under the name Kay Wilson 2 years ago, paid up through the end of this year." Maxwell's pulse quickened. "Have you looked inside?" "Just got the warrant. Thought you might want to be present when we open it." An hour later, Maxwell stood beside Hawkins as the storage facility manager cut the padlock on Unit 247. The space was small, perhaps 8 on 10 feet, and relatively empty. Just a few cardboard boxes stacked against the back wall, a suitcase, and oddly, a child's bicycle with training wheels still attached. Lily's, Maxwell murmured, recognizing the purple handlebars with streamers. She must have outgrown it. The boxes contained primarily clothing, women's and children's, along with some kitchenware and books. Nothing remarkable until they reached the bottom box, sealed with packing tape and labeled simply "Important" in Catherine's distinctive handwriting. Inside was a chaotic collection of documents: Sophia's original birth certificate, Catherine's passport, medical records, and at the bottom, a thick manila envelope addressed to Maxwell Reed, to be opened only in case of emergency. Maxwell's hands trembled as he lifted the envelope. The seal was intact. Whatever message Catherine had prepared for him had never been sent, never been opened. "I'll need some time with this," he told Hawkins quietly. The investigator nodded, understanding. "I'll continue cataloging the rest." Maxwell took the envelope to his car, sitting in the privacy of the tinted windows before carefully opening the seal. Inside was a handwritten letter, dated January 15th of the previous year, just weeks before Lily had been left with Brenda Laskowitz. "Dear Maxwell, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I've arranged for this letter to reach you only if I'm unable to care for Sophia any longer. First, I need to say I'm sorry. Taking her was wrong. I convinced myself I was protecting her, protecting us both, but that was a lie born from anger and fear. The truth is more complicated. After our divorce, I was approached by people who claimed you were under investigation for financial crimes connected to Reed Technologies. They showed me documents, warrants, evidence that seemed irrefutable. They said that when you were arrested, anyone connected to you would be implicated. They offered us new identities, protection, in exchange for testimony I didn't even have to give. I was scared and stupid and angry enough to believe them. Only years later did I discover the truth. These weren't federal agents, but corporate spies working for Westlake Industries, trying to sabotage you and gain access to your early quantum computing patents through me. By then, we were deep in our false identities, and I was too ashamed and afraid to face what I'd done. I've spent years looking over my shoulder, moving whenever I felt exposed. Sophia, she calls herself Lily now, has paid the price for my mistakes. She deserves stability, the truth about her father, the opportunities I've denied her. Recently, I've been contacted again by these people. They've found us somehow and are making new threats. I don't know what they want after all this time, but I'm taking steps to protect Lily while I resolve this situation. If you're reading this, I failed. Please tell our daughter I'm sorry, and that everything I did, however misguided, was out of love for her. The storage unit is paid through December. Everything here belongs to Lily now. Catherine. The letter slipped from Maxwell's numb fingers. Corporate espionage, false agents, Westlake Industries, one of his company's main competitors in the early days, now defunct after a series of financial scandals. It was simultaneously too fantastic to believe and made perfect, terrible sense. The timing aligned with Catherine's disappearance, with Westlake's aggressive attempts to undermine Reed Technologies' breakthrough quantum computing research. He'd always assumed their acquisition of several key engineers from his team had been the extent of their corporate espionage. Never had he imagined they would target his family. And Catherine, deceived, manipulated, then too proud or scared to admit her mistake, trapped in a lie that had spiraled beyond her control. But what had happened in those final days? Who had contacted her again after so many years? And why? Westlake had collapsed in bankruptcy nearly 4 years ago, its executives scattered to other firms or early retirement. What threat could remain? Maxwell called Hawkins over and wordlessly handed him the letter. The investigator read it quickly, his expression darkening. "This changes things," he said finally. "We need to look at Westlake's former executives, especially anyone still in positions of power at other companies. And we need to understand what steps Catherine was taking to protect Lily." Maxwell nodded, his mind racing. She wouldn't have left Lily with that woman unless she felt she had no choice. She must have been planning to return. Which means something prevented her from doing so, Hawkins concluded grimly. I'll redirect our resources immediately." That evening, Maxwell returned to the house, the letter burning a hole in his pocket. Lily was in the garden, swinging gently on the old swing set, Luna the doll clutched in her lap. The sight of her there, in the same spot where he had pushed toddler Sophia years before, created a poignant overlay of past and present. He hadn't planned to share Catherine's letter with Lily yet, wanting to process its implications first, but seeing her there, he knew she deserved whatever truth he could offer. "Lily," he called softly, approaching the swings, "I found something today that I think you should know about." She looked up, her expression curious but not alarmed. In the year since she had come into his life, her resilience had continually amazed him. "It's about your mum," he continued, sitting on the adjacent swing. "I found a letter she wrote." Lily's swing slowed to a stop. "To you?" "Yes. She left it where I would find it if something happened to her." He watched her face carefully as he added, "She didn't leave you on purpose, Lily. She was trying to protect you from people who were threatening her." Lily's eyes widened. "Bad people were after her, like she always said." "Yes, but not the people she thought. It's complicated, and some of it I'm still trying to understand. But she wanted you to know that she loved you very much and that she was sorry for the mistakes she made." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. Is she gone forever?" The question cut straight to the heart of the matter, the question Maxwell had been avoiding himself. Catherine's letter, the prepaid storage unit, the abandoned bicycle, all suggested a woman who had not planned to disappear permanently. "I don't know," he answered honestly, "but I promise you we're doing everything possible to find out what happened to her." Lily nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Can I see the letter?" Maxwell hesitated. The full contents, the corporate espionage, the deception, the specifics of Catherine's fear, seemed too complex, too adult for an 8-year-old to process. "I'll show you the parts where she talks about you," he compromised. "The rest is grown-up business that might be confusing right now." This seemed to satisfy her. Later, after reading the carefully selected excerpts, Lily grew quiet and thoughtful. "She called me Sophia in the letter," she observed. "She did," Maxwell confirmed. "That was the name we gave you when you were born." Lily considered this. "I think I remember her calling me that sometimes, when she was really happy or really scared." The comment struck Maxwell deeply, the idea that in moments of emotional extremity, Catherine had reverted to their daughter's true name, a subconscious acknowledgement of the reality she had tried to escape. That night, as he tucked Lily into bed, she asked unexpectedly, "If we find Mum, will I have to choose?" "Choose what, sweetheart?" "Between you and her, where to live." The question revealed the underlying anxiety that had perhaps been building since the discovery of the letter, the fear that finding Catherine would disrupt the stability she had finally found. "No," Maxwell said firmly. "You wouldn't have to choose. We would figure out something that works for everyone, but especially for you. You could have both of us in your life." Lily nodded, seemingly reassured. "I want that. Both of you." Maxwell kissed her forehead. "Then that's what we'll work toward." As he turned to leave, Lily's voice stopped him at the door. "Dad?" It was the first time she had called him that instead of Max, and the word sent a shock of emotion through him. "Yes?" he managed. "I'm glad you found me, even if it took a long time." Maxwell swallowed the lump in his throat. "Me too, Lily. Every single day." The next morning brought new developments. Hawkins called early, his voice tense with urgency. "We've identified a person of interest, James Corbin, former security chief at Westlake Industries. After the company collapsed, he started a private security firm specializing in corporate intelligence. He's maintained connections with several former Westlake executives. And you think he's the one who approached Catherine again?" It fits. His firm has been in financial trouble recently, desperate for clients or capital. If he had leveraged information about Catherine and Sophia all those years ago, he might have returned to that well when things got tight. Maxwell considered this theory. What would he want from her after all this time? That's the question. Whatever it was, it seems she didn't give it to him, and now she's missing and he's suddenly flush with cash. His firm signed 3 major contracts in April, right after Catherine disappeared. The implication was clear, but disturbing. What could Catherine have possessed that was valuable enough to threaten her over? What had happened when she refused to cooperate? "I want to meet him," Maxwell said decisively. "Arrange it." Hawkins hesitated. "Reed, that might not be the best approach. If he is involved in Catherine's disappearance, confronting him directly could be dangerous for the investigation and potentially for you. I'm not suggesting we accuse him of anything," Maxwell clarified. "Find a pretext. My company is always contracting with security firms. Make it a legitimate business meeting." After some back and forth, Hawkins reluctantly agreed to set up the meeting for later that week. In the meantime, Maxwell and Lily continued their California stay. The tension of the investigation balanced against the healing that seemed to be occurring as Lily reconnected with fragments of her earliest memories. On their 6th night, as they walked along the beach at sunset, Lily suddenly stopped and pointed at the horizon. "I remember this," she said with certainty. "Standing here with Mom, watching the sun go down, she told me that no matter where we went, the same sun would set and the same moon would rise." Maxwell nodded, his throat tight. She was right about that. Lily looked up at him, her expression serious beyond her years. "I think she was trying to tell me that even when things change, some things stay the same. Like family." "That sounds like something your mother would say," Maxwell agreed. "She was very wise about important things." Lily slipped her hand into his as they continued walking. "Do you think she knew we'd find each other again someday?" Maxwell considered this. Despite everything, the deception, the running, the years of separation, Catherine had kept the doll with its distinctive mark, had preserved Sophia's birth certificate and their family photos, had written a letter meant to reach him if something happened to her. "Yes," he said finally. "I think she knew. I think maybe she was counting on it." As the sun disappeared below the horizon, father and daughter stood watching the first stars appear, connected by a shared past, neither fully understood yet, but both were committed to uncovering. The half-moon scars that had brought them together now seemed less like accidents and more like a deliberate thread woven through their complicated family tapestry, a constant reminder that some bonds, once formed, can never truly be broken. The meeting with James Corbin was scheduled for Thursday morning at Reed Technologies' San Francisco headquarters. Maxwell hadn't set foot in the building for years, having directed operations remotely from Chicago after Sophia's disappearance. Walking through the sleek glass doors now with Bernard Hawkins beside him felt like stepping into another life, one he had kept at arm's length during his search for his daughter. "Remember," Hawkins murmured as they rode the elevator to the executive floor, "this is just a preliminary assessment. We're considering his firm for a security contract, nothing more. No mention of Catherine or anything personal." Maxwell nodded tightly. He had left Lily at the house with Elaine Winters and her trusted security team, telling his daughter only that he had important business meetings. Despite his burning desire for answers, he recognized the need for caution. If Corbin was indeed connected to Catherine's disappearance, revealing their suspicions prematurely could jeopardize any chance of finding her. James Corbin proved to be a study in corporate blandness, mid-50s, silver-haired, with an expensive suit and the practiced smile of someone who had spent decades in boardrooms. Nothing in his demeanor suggested a man involved in corporate espionage or extortion, but Maxwell had learned long ago that the most dangerous adversaries often appeared the most innocuous. "Mr. Reed?" Corbin greeted him with apparent genuine pleasure, extending his hand. "It's an honor. Your work in quantum encryption has revolutionized the industry." Maxwell accepted the handshake, noting the firm grip, the confident eye contact. "Mr. Corbin, thank you for making time on short notice." The meeting proceeded with professional precision. Corbin presented his firm's services: executive protection, cybersecurity, risk assessment, while Maxwell and Hawkins, introduced as Reed's head of corporate security, asked appropriate questions about methodologies and past clients. Throughout, Maxwell watched for any sign, any tell that might betray Corbin's connection to Catherine, but the man was either innocent or exceptionally skilled at concealment. As the meeting concluded, Maxwell made a calculated decision. Reaching into his briefcase, he extracted a file folder. "One more thing, Mr. Corbin. I'd appreciate your professional assessment of a personal security matter." He slid a photograph across the table, a family portrait taken when Sophia was just over a year old, Maxwell and Catherine smiling on either side of their daughter's high chair. Corbin glanced at the photo, his expression politely interested but nothing more. "A lovely family. What am I looking for here?" "This photo was taken shortly before my ex-wife and daughter disappeared. Maxwell said bluntly, watching Corbin's face. They were missing for 6 years before my daughter was found alone in Chicago last year. My ex-wife remains missing. A flicker of something, surprise, recognition, crossed Corbin's features before being quickly suppressed. I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Reed. A tragic situation, but I'm not sure how my firm could assist if this is already a law enforcement matter. Catherine Collins, Maxwell continued, ignoring the deflection. She was living under the name Kay Wilson. Does that name mean anything to you, Mr. Corbin? Hawkins shifted uncomfortably beside him. This wasn't the agreed approach, but Maxwell kept his eyes fixed on Corbin, who had gone very still. I'm afraid not, Corbin answered after a barely perceptible pause. As I mentioned, missing persons aren't our specialty. We focus on preventative security measures for corporations. Interesting, Maxwell replied, his voice deceptively casual. Because my understanding is that before founding your current firm, you worked for Westlake Industries as their head of security. Around the same time, my wife and daughter vanished. Corbin's smile tightened. Ancient history, Mr. Reed. Westlake collapsed years ago, as you well know. I've built an entirely new business since then. Indeed you have, Maxwell agreed. 3 major new contracts just this April, I believe. Quite a turnaround for a firm that was struggling financially. The atmosphere in the room had shifted, the pretense of a business meeting evaporating like morning fog. Hawkins subtly positioned himself between Maxwell and the door, where Corbin's gaze had briefly darted. Mr. Reed, Corbin said carefully, I'm not sure what you're implying, but I think this meeting has concluded. If you have allegations, I suggest you take them to the appropriate authorities. Maxwell leaned forward. I'm not making allegations, Mr. Corbin. I'm offering an opportunity. Whatever happened with Catherine Collins, whatever information or leverage you thought you had, it's over now. My daughter is legally restored to me with full custody. The statute of limitations on corporate espionage from Westlake's activities has expired. I have no interest in pursuing old vendettas. He paused, letting his words sink in. But I want to find Catherine, and I believe you know something about what happened to her. Corbin's expression had become unreadable, and if, hypothetically, someone did have such information, full immunity, Maxwell stated flatly. A signed agreement drafted by my attorneys, witnessed and legally binding. No repercussions, no further contact required. Just the truth about Catherine's whereabouts. A long silence filled the room as Corbin appeared to calculate his options. Finally, he sighed, suddenly looking older and wearier than he had moments before. You're partly right, Reed. I did approach Catherine Collins again last year, but not for the reasons you think, and I don't know where she is now. He rubbed his face, the polished corporate facade crumbling. When Westlake went under, a lot of dirty laundry got buried in the bankruptcy proceedings. Some of us walked away with knowledge that could have sent people to prison. Executives, board members, people who landed comfortably at other firms afterward. Including the operation to target my wife and daughter, Maxwell supplied. Corbin nodded reluctantly. That wasn't my idea, but yes, I implemented it. We needed access to your quantum computing research, and conventional corporate espionage wasn't working. Someone suggested using your personal life as leverage. So you posed as federal agents, convinced Catherine I was under investigation. It was supposed to be temporary, Corbin defended weakly. Get her to cooperate, get what we needed, then disappear. But she took the child and ran before we could even make our real request. At that point, it was too complicated to unravel without exposing ourselves. Maxwell's hands clenched under the table, rage building at the casual way Corbin described the deception that had shattered his family. But he kept his voice steady, focused on the present. And last year? Why approach her again after all that time? Corbin hesitated, then apparently decided full disclosure was his safest path. One of Westlake's former board members is now CEO at Quantum Solutions. He's been cleaning house, eliminating connections to past indiscretions. Several former Westlake executives have had unfortunate accidents in the past 2 years, Hawkins interjected. You're saying Catherine was targeted because she knew about Westlake's corporate espionage? She was a loose end, Corbin confirmed. I approached her to warn her, actually. My conscience isn't completely dead. I offered her money, a new identity, relocation. She refused, said she was tired of running, that she wanted to come clean about everything and try to reconcile with her daughter's father. He looked directly at Maxwell. She was planning to contact you, Reed, to tell you everything and face the consequences. The revelation hit Maxwell like a physical blow. Catherine had been planning to return, to make amends. "What happened?" he asked, his voice hoarse. She needed time to gather evidence, documents she'd kept from the original approach, recordings of conversations. She asked for 2 weeks to put everything in order before reaching out to you. Said she needed to leave her daughter somewhere safe in the meantime. A chill ran through Maxwell as he remembered Lily's account. "She left me at Ms. Brenda's. Said she had to do something important and would come back in 2 days. The last time I spoke with her was March 4th of last year," Corbin continued. "She was supposed to contact me again on the 6th with the evidence, but she never showed. I tried to track her down, but she had vanished. I assumed she'd gotten cold feet and run again. Or someone got to her first," Hawkins suggested grimly. Corbin nodded. "That's my fear. If she was gathering evidence against people at Quantum Solutions, they might have discovered her intentions. And you just, what? Gave up looking for her? Moved on to your next business opportunity?" Maxwell's contempt was palpable. Corbin had the decency to look ashamed. "I made inquiries discreetly. When I couldn't find her, I assumed the worst. There was nothing more I could do without exposing myself. Except cash in," Maxwell observed coldly. "Those 3 contracts in April, Quantum Solutions subsidiaries, aren't they? Your silence bought and paid for." Corbin didn't deny it. "Business is business, Reed. Not all of us have your resources or options." Maxwell stood abruptly. "I want everything you have. Names, dates, locations. Every detail of your interactions with Catherine, every piece of evidence she mentioned gathering. You're going to help us find her, or evidence of what happened to her. And if I refuse, then immunity is off the table, and I'll spend every dollar of my considerable fortune making sure you face whatever justice is still available, legally or in the court of public opinion. Your choice." The ultimatum hung in the air between them. Finally, Corbin nodded in resignation. "I'll cooperate. But I want that immunity agreement in writing before I say another word." "You'll have it by this afternoon," Maxwell promised, then added with quiet intensity, "If she's still out there, Corbin, if there's any chance at all, we're going to find her." The information Corbin provided set in motion a comprehensive new investigation, names of former Westlake executives now at Quantum Solutions, dates and locations of Catherine's movements in the weeks before her disappearance, the storage locker where she claimed to have hidden her evidence. While Hawkins and his team pursued these leads, Maxwell returned to the house, to Lily, his mind spinning with possibilities. Was Catherine truly gone, another victim of corporate ruthlessness? Or was she still out there, perhaps hiding, perhaps unable to return? For the first time in years, he allowed himself to hope that she might still be found. That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Maxwell sat alone on the deck overlooking the ocean. The same view where he and Catherine had once planned their future, dreaming of the family they would build together. The moon hung low over the water, a waxing crescent that reminded him of the marks that had reunited him with his daughter. A soft sound behind him made him turn. Lily stood in the doorway, clutching Luna the doll. "I couldn't sleep," she explained, padding over to join him. "Too many thoughts." "Me too," Maxwell admitted, making space for her on the lounge chair. "Want to share some of yours?" She settled beside him, her small frame fitting perfectly against his side. "I was thinking about Mom, about her maybe coming back someday." Maxwell's heart constricted. He had been wrestling with how much to tell Lily about Corbin's revelations, about the new investigation, how to balance hope with realism, how to prepare her for any outcome without adding to her trauma. "Would you like that?" he asked carefully. "If she came back." Lily nodded slowly. "I miss her. Even though she kept secrets and moved us around all the time, she always read me stories and made special pancakes on Sundays. And she kept Luna safe for me, even when we had to leave other things behind." The simple childhood memories, so different from the complex adult narrative of deception and fear, reminded Maxwell that Catherine had been more than her mistakes. She had been a mother who, however misguidedly, had tried to protect their daughter. "I've learned some new things about your mom," Maxwell said gently, "about why she took you away and why she left you with Ms. Brenda that day." Lily looked up at him with those serious eyes. "Was it because of bad people?" "Yes, in a way. She was tricked by people who wanted something from me. They made her believe I had done bad things, and she was scared. By the time she learned the truth, She thought it was too late to come back. He paused, unsure how much more to share, but Lily's steady gaze encouraged him to continue. When she left you with Ms. Brenda, it was because she was gathering evidence about these people. She was planning to come to me to tell me everything and bring you back home. Lily processed this, her brow furrowed in concentration. But something stopped her. We think so, yes. Is she... Lily couldn't finish the question, but Maxwell understood. We don't know for certain, he answered honestly. But we have new information and we're looking for her again. There's a chance, Lily. I can't promise what we'll find, but we're going to do everything possible. Lily was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the moonlit ocean. Then, with the resilience that continually amazed him, she said, "We'll find her. If she left clues for you to find me, maybe she left clues for us to find her too." The simple faith in her words touched something deep in Maxwell's heart. "So you might be right about that," he said, pulling her closer. "Your mum was always clever about leaving messages." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the moon's reflection shimmer on the dark water. After a while, Lily spoke again, her voice drowsy with approaching sleep. "The moon looks like Luna's mark, and my mark, and yours." "Yes, it does," Maxwell agreed. "Our family sign." "Mom used to say the moon watches over travelers, helps them find their way home," Lily murmured. "Maybe it's watching over her too." "I hope so, sweetheart," Maxwell whispered, his throat tight with emotion. "I really hope so." The investigation continued through summer and into fall, following the threads Corbin had provided. The evidence Catherine had allegedly gathered remained elusive, but other discoveries emerged. Records of payments from Quantum Solutions to a shell company linked to accidents befalling former Westlake employees. Surveillance photos of Catherine in the days before her disappearance. A witness who reported seeing her enter a private airfield outside Chicago but never exit. Each piece added to the mosaic without completing the picture. Lily returned to school in Chicago, their lives resuming their rhythm while the search continued in the background. Maxwell had promised her transparency, sharing age-appropriate updates on the investigation without fostering false hope. And Lily, in turn, had shown remarkable strength, embracing her life with her father, while keeping space in her heart for the mother who remained missing. It was Lily, in fact, who provided the crucial breakthrough. On a Sunday afternoon in October, as they sorted through the remaining items from Catherine's storage unit, she picked up an old paperback novel, Moon Palace, by Paul Auster. "Mom used to read this," she said, flipping through the pages. She said it was her favorite. Maxwell nodded absently, cataloging kitchen items into boxes. "She read it in college. That's where we met, actually. A literature class at Stanford." Lily continued examining the book, then frowned. "There's writing in it, but it's weird, not like normal notes." Maxwell looked up, suddenly alert. "What kind of writing?" Lily brought him the book, pointing to tiny notations in the margins, numbers and letters in a seemingly random pattern written in Catherine's distinctive hand. "It's like a code or something." Maxwell studied the markings, recognition dawning. "It's not random," he said slowly. "It's a cipher we used to use in college. For passing notes in class." He took the book to his office, Lily following curiously. Over the next hour, he worked through the code, translating Catherine's hidden message as Lily watched in fascination. When the final piece fell into place, Maxwell sat back, stunned. "It's coordinates," he explained to Lily, "GPS locations, and a safety deposit box number at a bank in Monterey. She hid her evidence there, not in the storage unit." "So we can find it?" Lily asked eagerly. "And it will help us find Mom?" Maxwell nodded, hope and apprehension warring within him. "It might, sweetheart. It just might." The safety deposit box, accessed the following week, contained exactly what Catherine had promised: documents proving the original deception by Westlake Industries, recordings of conversations with Corbin and others, and, most critically, evidence linking executives at Quantum Solutions to the disappearances of former Westlake employees who knew too much. But there was something else as well. A letter addressed to Sophia and Maxwell, dated March 5th of the previous year. Catherine's final message, written the day before she vanished. The letter didn't explain her disappearance directly, but it confirmed her intentions: to deliver her evidence to federal authorities, then to contact Maxwell and attempt to make amends. She expressed her deep remorse for the years stolen from father and daughter, her hope that they might someday forgive her, and her determination to face whatever consequences came from her actions. Most poignantly, she wrote directly to Sophia, Lily, "Always remember that you are loved, little moon. By your father, who never stopped searching for you, and by me, who made terrible mistakes but tried to keep you safe. If you're reading this, you've found your way home to him, just as I always feared and secretly hoped you would. The mark that connects you was no accident. It was always meant to bring you back together, even if I couldn't." The evidence Catherine had gathered was comprehensive enough to launch a federal investigation into quantum solutions. 3 executives were eventually indicted for crimes ranging from corporate espionage to conspiracy. James Corbin, true to his nature, negotiated immunity in exchange for his testimony. But of Catherine herself, there was no definitive trace, only circumstantial evidence suggesting she had been silenced before she could deliver her evidence to the authorities. As the months passed, Maxwell gradually accepted what seemed increasingly likely, that Catherine had sacrificed herself in an attempt to right the wrongs she had participated in to ensure Lily's safety and future. He shared this difficult probability with Lily as gently as possible, answering her questions honestly while helping her process her grief. On the anniversary of the day Maxwell had found Lily in the hospital, they held a private ceremony in the garden of their San Francisco home. Not a memorial, Maxwell was careful to frame it, but a celebration of family, of connections maintained across time and distance. Lily, now 9, had chosen the location, beside the lemon tree where her first birthday had been celebrated, under the watchful gaze of the moon. "I have something for you," Maxwell told her as twilight descended. From his pocket, he withdrew a small velvet box. Inside lay a silver pendant in the shape of a crescent moon, delicately crafted and suspended on a fine chain. "It's beautiful," Lily breathed, lifting it carefully. "Turn it over," Maxwell encouraged. On the back, 3 names were engraved: Maxwell, Catherine, Lily Sophia. "So we're always connected," he explained. "All 3 of us, no matter what." Tears shimmered in Lily's eyes as she allowed him to fasten the necklace around her neck. "Like our marks," she said, touching the pendant where it rested against her heart. "Exactly like that," Maxwell agreed. "Some bonds can never be broken, not even by time or distance." As the first stars appeared above them, Lily gazed up at the waxing moon, her expression thoughtful. "Do you think Mom can see us now?" she asked. Maxwell followed her gaze to the luminous crescent hanging in the darkening sky. Science told him one answer, but his heart, the part that had never stopped searching, never stopped believing, told him another. "I think she can," he said softly. "I think she's always watching over you, just like she promised." Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. Taking her father's hand, she led him back toward the house, the silver pendant gleaming in the moonlight like a promise kept, a family restored if not fully complete. Inside, the warmth and light of home awaited them, father and daughter, bound by blood and choice, and the crescent mark that had guided them back to each other across years of separation. And somewhere, perhaps, the spirit of the woman who had loved them both in her own complicated way watched over them still, her final act one of courage and redemption. As they crossed the threshold together, Lily turned to look once more at the moon rising over the Pacific. "Good night, Mom," she whispered. "Thank you for helping Dad find me." Maxwell's heart swelled with love for this remarkable child, his daughter, Catherine's daughter, a testament to resilience and the enduring power of family bonds. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, guided by the same moonlight that had marked them all. Film de Historia. Dear listeners, we hope that Maxwell and Lily's emotional journey has touched your hearts. The bonds of family, even when tested by separation and misunderstanding, have a remarkable way of bringing us back to those we love. For more heartwarming stories that explore the complexity of human relationships, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating tales. Find it by clicking on the link to your left. If this story moved you, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every day, we bring unique stories that explore life's intricate emotional landscapes. What was your favorite moment in Maxwell and Lily's reunion? Perhaps the discovery of the moon-shaped scar, or their tender conversations by the ocean. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear which part resonated most with you. Until our next story, remember that sometimes the most profound connections are written in the stars, or perhaps in the shape of a crescent moon.